Had you ever wanted to be a writer? Do you still want to be a writer? Or it was always, I want to help authors and I love books?
I actually thought that I was going to end up working in marketing and publicity, to be totally honest. The funny thing is, when you first day of the Denver Publishing Institute, one of the first questions that they ask the classroom of, I think there's like 100 people, is, who in the room wants to be an editor? And you see at least 3/4 of the room's hands go up. And I never raised my hand at wanting to be an editor. So it's actually pretty funny that my first job out of the Publishing Institute was as an editor, and my second job was as an editor. I never wanted to be an editor. I never wanted to be a writer. My first day at work at the bookstore, my boss pointed above her head and said, "And these are our advanced reader copies." And I said, "Oh, what are those?" And she was like, "Oh, sometimes the publisher sends us free books that they want us to read, and we just put them up there." And I was like, "How do we get more?" And she was like, "Well, I don't really know." And so I spent a very long time as a bookseller building relationships with people who were in marketing already, reaching out to them and saying, "I work in a bookstore and I got a copy of this ARC and I loved it, and please send us more. We would love to see more." It was really funny because, again, back to Harlan Coben, when Tell No One came out, I got an advanced reader copy of that. And by the time it came out in paperback, so many members of the staff had read it and were hand selling it to people that our corporate office was actually like tracking our paperback numbers. And we played around a little bit with like picking like a store pick after that to like all read and hand sell. But when it came out in hardcover, I hand sold a hardcover to a customer who went home and emailed Harlan Coben and said, "I had never heard of you, and the bookseller recommended your book." And he was so excited. He wanted to know what bookstore it was and, all that stuff. And I actually got to meet him at an event a couple of years later, and he remembered who I was. So that was pretty cool. But, being a part of that as a bookseller, learning the industry, learning what imprints went with what houses, learning who worked in the marketing departments, I really came out of that wanting to have a direct hand in getting the books into readers' hands, which obviously I was doing as a bookseller, but I wanted to do it on a broader level. I wanted to be the one like getting it into booksellers' hands so that booksellers were then getting excited about it and telling customers about it. And that just sort of, I don't know, evolved into, like I said, I ended up working as an editor, which I never planned, and then realizing like I'm already doing the work of an agent, and hey, as an agent, I also have a direct hand in getting the books into people's hands. So
does that mean, would it be fair to say that's one of the major motivations for you, is you want to shape part of our literary conversation? You want to be one of the gatekeepers that says, yes, these books, read these, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't really call it so much as like a gatekeeper. It's more that I want people to love the books that I love, and I want to be able to have more of an influence on who reads those books, if that makes sense. Not in the sense that, when people say gatekeeping, you think more of like, okay, well, I want to keep out these things and I want to. So it's not a situation where we keep going back to horror, but actually I acquire all kinds of genres because I read all kinds of genres. But for example, I wouldn't want to say like, oh, well, I don't want anybody to read this particular kind of book. I just want everybody to read horror. That's not it. But it is a case where like, if I really, really love this author's book, which as an agent, you do have to really, really love your client's books. I want everybody to discover this author and love them too, So, back to sort of the querying, that's why I say too, I would love it if every author that queries me has a fantastic book. It would make my job a lot harder, but, I'm in it because I love reading, and I love not necessarily having a hand in shaping an author's career, but I certainly love being able to be part of that, being able to help with that. So I've never wanted to write myself. I leave that in the hands of the professionals. I just like being able to really use my enthusiasm as a reader for more good, if that makes sense.
Well, as a reader, how much reading do you do, would you say, on a daily basis, weekly basis? And is any of it for fun now, or is it all just client and submissions?
No. I mean, so it's kind of funny because every once in a while I'll say like, oh, I'm reading this for fun. I do a lot of reading for fun, but that's all work as well, because I do have to stay informed with, what's in the marketplace, what's selling. So everything I do, even if it's reading for fun, is work. But when I say I'm reading for fun, it is an opportunity for me to rest. Because when I'm reading for clients, when I'm reading for prospective clients, my brain sort of has to be on in professional mode the entire time, because I have to be thinking like, is this working? If this is not working, do I have an idea of how to fix it? I'm looking for continuity issues. I'm looking for, I even if I'm looking at a prospective client's project, I have that editor brain in gear while I'm reading. So when I say I'm reading for fun, I'm reading something that hopefully that has already been done with, and I can sort of let my brain rest. I don't have to be in that editor professional mode. I can just be in pure enjoyment. And there is an element of enjoyment when I'm reading a client project. You want that element of enjoyment when you're reading a prospective client's project, because that's the indication that like, hey, this is working and I'm really liking this, and this is somebody that I probably want to make an offer to if the book continues this way. But it is work, and you do have to. There are times when I just can't work on a client project because I'm too exhausted. I know that any time that I spend on it, I'm probably going to have to redo the section that I just read because I'm not on 100%. I'm going to miss something. I'm going to miss that something that we cut earlier in the manuscripts didn't get cut later on, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I do a lot of reading for fun. That's my downtime. But it all sort of goes into the pot in terms of like learning and staying on top of what's going on in the industry.